Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the channel, Innercosmetics. I'm your host, Elle, and I'm really excited to have a longtime friend with me, Lisa Crilley.
Hi.
Lisa Crilley. She is a Los Angeles-based psychotherapist and a senior candidate in psychoanalysis who's deeply invested in the matters of psychic growth. So for today, our topic is parental legacy and embracing change. And I'm going to dive right into it, Lisa, and ask you, how would you describe parental legacy, and why is that important in understanding its impact in our lives?
Sure. Yeah. Parental legacy. I think it's wildly important. It's both important for the parents to be aware of, and the child when they're of a certain age. Um, we all have things that we want to pass on. And of course, we want it. What I always hear as parents, I want to do better than my parents did. And a lot of the times, that's true. However, the kind of parental legacy I'm talking about here is what's not really known about and what gets kind of transmitted unconsciously. Now, mind you, also, so is the kind of resiliency that can get transmitted as well. But so some of the parental legacy that we're talking about today is like transgenerational issues, some maybe trauma, some states of being able to regulate yourself and be calm about things that maybe wasn't passed on to you growing up, that there are these kind of communications to your child. So maybe I'll slow it down a little bit and kind of talk about some things that happen when, baby and mom and infant, or, parents and infant. And then I can broaden it and make it a little bigger. What's really cool about it, though, is that it's not just with families, too. You can also pick all this stuff up with people you're closest with, whether it's a romantic partner or a really close friend. You can pick things up about each other that you're like, whoa, what was that? And, hopefully you're in a loving relationship where you can say hey, are you okay? What's going on? Rather than just somebody picking it up, like a friend picking it up and having to move differently,
So why would you feel that's important, important in your life?
I think it can help you move around freely. You don't have to be afraid of your friends or your partners or even, your children's states, when they get overwhelmed or upset. It's another way I look at it. It's like I'm like Teflon. My side of the street's fine. I'm okay here. Something's happening with this other person. But when you're really little and that's happening with parents, that little kid can't do that. That little kid has no ability to say mom or dad's having a bad day. They're just yikes. This, something bad is happening. Meanwhile, they don't know what that bad is. But if that keeps happening to them, they're going to walk around with that bad. They're going to walk around afraid of whatever this is that has nothing to do with that child and what they're actually going through. It's the parents' trauma. It's the parents' issues with regulating, and most of the times it's completely dissociated. They don't know. I look at it like the hot stove. You ever get near a hot stove and you move your hand quick, but you don't go, I am touching something hot. I will now move my hand. You just do it. So when something doesn't feel good inside and you don't have somebody there that helps you slow it down and go, oh, we don't have to be afraid of that anymore. That's not actually happening right now. You don't have to, you won't react that way. You won't hot stove things all the time with your friends or something,
Well, I guess we can kind of go two ways with that. And I think this is what you were leading to initially, because as a parent, I can look at this, hear this conversation and say, well, how do I become aware enough so that my child isn't dealing with that unknowingness, right?
Huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
This is what I need so I can help help you with like in thinking about that? Yeah, I think for parents to develop what like we would call like reflective capacity, to self-reflect, self-attunement. So, I love the game Rose and Thorn. What was the rose of your day? What was your thorn of the day? If you have a flower. And so you could say like, oh, the highlight of my day was this. My low light was this. So a lot of people do the hot stove with the low lights. They don't want to touch it. They don't want to look at the thorn. But we want to help these parents touch the thorn, get close to the thorn so we can prune it. Right. And so when they can get more in touch with their own thorns. So I like, so you think about like taking a temperature, being able to sit at the end of the day and go like, wow, what was that like? Think about my interactions, like I'm doing this, going ups and downs. Like, oh, I got fiery then. Oh, so-and-so ticked me off, whatever it is. But to be able to slow it down and not put it into a place of like, well, that kid was annoying me. Wait a minute, what about that was annoying? And we can kind of get to what's underneath it. So things aren't just like black and white.
So am I hearing you say, instead of worrying about the concerns for my child, if I'm true with myself, if I address my own issues, that will simultaneously take care of itself with the child?
So much.
Okay.
So much. Yeah. And then in doing so, you'll also develop self-attunement for that child. Because by being able to do it yourself, and we're human. This isn't about perfect parenting. We got to get that, rule book out of your head. It's about learning from experience, learning from our ups and downs. So, so what if mom or dad has a rough day and they're a little cranky, like they're human. What they do with that cranky is another thing, and if the parent might not be so attuned with themselves in the moment, excuse me, I don't mean to flash you. The parents.
I was wondering about the same thing.
Another show. So if the parent,
we're always in sync.
If the parent isn't so aware that they're being grumpy, that they're grumpy inside, which is really true, right? Sometimes you don't realize how stressed you are,
right.
But it spills out. And then, but in recognizing, oh, wow, that spilled out today, then you can go back and talk to your child and say, I really want to apologize. Something happened yesterday. Let's talk about it. Dream come true. Because now that child is also being recognized and considered, and is going to be able to do the same when they mess up, or where they're learning. And they're, that repair is going to mean we can have a relationship. We can talk about this stuff. So even more in the moment, the child can go like, flag dad or mom, like, are you really stressed right now? And it can be a dialogue. Now we're in two people relationship, two people relating,
It's so funny because obviously keeping it on this topic, but literally I just got done a podcast about the abundance of communication.
Oh.
And we overlook that communication as abundance, but so much gets resolved in relationships when we have that open dialogue. And when the child gets to see the parent as a human, you are wearing that cape when you can share your vulnerability with your kid. Right?
Oh, yeah.
The cape isn't
this
about
is how to do it.
Yes.
Yeah. 100%. Totally. No, I love that, because that's ultimately what we want to do for our children is not tell them how to be good or bad, but show them how to learn and grow. And it really is the kind of dialogue, and you're speaking to something really interesting too, that we're at a time in our climate where a lot of people do not know how to dialogue. They're black and white on their phones, posting things, cancel culture. Like, we've got all these things going on, but how do we talk without getting that activated and turn people off. So that's what I call like a one-person conversation. You know, when somebody's talking at me, I'm like, what? There's no point in me being here. I'm not going to get in, you know? So let's shut this down and calm down. And when you're feeling better, let's try again. But that's actually the communication that I'm talking about when we're talking about the generational or the traumas. You might sometimes, you know, hear that in the way someone's talking to you, where you're like, whoa, like they're on full blast. And that's what I mean. Like, I know I didn't have full blast inside of me when I said something to them. So something's going on inside of that person.
Yes.
And that's where for us to recognize the nuance, you know, that there's more going on than just this person's a jerk and talking to me like this. You know, it's, yeah, this person's very activated about something that's not happening right now.
So good. So good. So I have a list.
Okay.
Well, it's really, really good because it's these conversations, like we said earlier, that are helping us become more self-aware, essentially, you know? And I think that's what is most important about it, our own self-awareness. Don't worry so much about the other person, but just build yourself, and then the rest will take care of itself.
Sure. And the more and more you can help me help you, you know, because I'm talking from this lens that's over here, but I prefer to get in there with you so it can be useful, you know?
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
So can you share some common ways in which a person's upbringing and their parental influences shape their beliefs and like the choices that they make? Because I think that it does. Would love to hear with your expertise.
Yeah, well, it makes me think about, maybe I can look at it like an open system or a closed system, right? I'm playing with this right now. So depending upon that parent's life experience, if they were traumatized, you know, or if they had a kind of parenting that where their attachment was more secure, they were treated like a separate individual that had feelings and were important. You know, they were taught that they deserve respect and care, and their opinion matters. They're part of we're doing it together in a dialogue, and that's the open. Or if it's a little closed, where you have a parent that might kind of rule the roost, you know, and like it's my way, it's my house, and it could even be very loving. They want to make sure like everything is you're being taken care of.
That's true.
And protected. You know, some people may call it a little helicoptery or what, but I would say protective, for some protective parenting. It doesn't just have to be something authoritarian, you know. So I think that's a kind of way to look at like the way the differences. Now, mind you, there could be a parent that has some traumas or some nervousness about the world and how to live in it themselves, and it won't be all areas. This isn't a black and white thing. In some areas, they might be, you know, like go for it, climb the tree, you know, monkey around. You know, in other areas, they might be like, no, don't do it, you know, and be really afraid. So, yeah, I think that's a big part of it. That the own parent's attachment style, and do you know a little bit about attachments and attachment?
No, actually, no.
Great.
Elaborate.
Yeah, totally. So, you know, they've done all these studies talking about how attachment styles, and what that means is, you know, how they usually say mom and child, but it's also parent, whoever the caregiver is, father. Second mom, you know, we don't know, both dads, how their style of communication and connection. So that's about attachment, you know. You can think about, I don't know, particular pets. People can be attached to their pets, you know. certain pets that might be a little bit more insecurely attached, where they need to be around you all the time, you know.
Okay.
And then also pets that are like, whatever, I'm good on my own. Same thing happens with children too. So they did these studies on attachment where they could figure out like what's going on with all these kids. And, they could figure out an insecure attachment style, and there's a bunch of different varietals there. And then the secure attachment style.
Huh.
So, yeah. So the secure attachment style would be more what I would consider an open system, where connected, like you matter, I matter. We're both kind of like looking at each other for information, and we're in a two system functioning here, So that means that child, when they were really little, they got attuned to. They had a parent that could pick up their cues and help them soothe and get their need met, so they feel trust in the world. And then later on, they're learned to, oh, you're hungry. You're just hungry. And then later they'll be able to say baba instead of wah. Right.
Okay.
So that's kind of that process of like symbolizing, I've got a pain inside. I don't know what it is, but mom has come to me and she's calmed me many, many times. And now I know that pain doesn't hurt anymore. Now that it's just a signal, and I can say baba, and then continue. Okay. So, when you go into the other side where there's the insecure attachments, and there's a host of little varietals, as I said, there's some insecurity because sometimes mom and dad were there, sometimes they weren't. So they don't know. The child's like, I don't know. This isn't consistent. I'm a little scared. And some kids will be like that adhesive dog. I have a friend who's going through this right now. Her dog separation anxiety is real. Really? Oh yeah. But kids have it too. It's that you would see that in a child that as soon as you put the child down is like it has a very difficult time. Right. So, that there are things that you can do when that happens. That doesn't just mean, there's an insecure attachment. It could mean that child has certain needs, a temperament that has to be dealt with. So that's actually a really good point. Anything that I'm saying is in black and white.
Right. Mm-hmm. There's
so much that goes into it. The temperament of the parents, the temperament of the children, the histories, the experiences of those parents too. So just talking about those two sides of it. So, okay. When talking about, and this is, I think, important, in talking about the traumas that get passed down, it happens through affect feeling.
Affect feeling?
Affect feeling is the same thing. So it happens through affectively. So through feelings. Like, have you ever walked in a room and you could see like two people are fighting, but you didn't hear a word, but you're like,
you could pick up on it. Right.
That's some affect in the room.
Got it.
Right? So most of the communication, interestingly enough, when it comes to this transgenerational connection, it's not through words. It's through affect. It's through the feeling.
Wow. So that's a really great point. That's a really great point, actually, for parents, like recognizing that they're in tune with energy, vibration, right? So just don't think words are it. And sometimes at least this is hilarious, because sometimes as parents, we think we're so, I will say the word smart, but you think that, okay, well, hush, the child came in the room. But now what you're saying is they don't need to hear the dialogue.
That's right.
They can feel and read.
That's right. That's right. And what you're saying, so valuable, because I hear a lot of parents do that. And I have to tell them, you're trying to protect your child. But what's happening is that child knows something's wrong. But everyone's saying, it's fine. Everything's fine. What do you mean everything's fine? So the child gets confused. And then their signal, their compass, their emotional muscle is confused. Wow. So, the parent is right in what they're trying to accomplish. But I think in recognizing that No, it's okay. The child is, it's clear, like knows what's happening, but that we can talk about it. That like, yeah, mom and dad are in a little conflict right now, but we're okay. We're good. We're fine. We're just trying to, things get heated, but we still love each other. Like we're all good, but this is okay to have these feelings. A lot of people try to cut off all the bad feelings. They're not bad.
Well, that's the thing, right? So I think it helps with redefining all of these terms that we once held on to in our past. We thought bad meant this, but we have to understand that bad and healthy were coming from people with, how do I say this? That didn't really truly understand what that meant.
They didn't know.
Oh, right.
They didn't know how to be with all the emotions. So they were like, that's bad. Feeling anger, feeling envy, feeling disgust, like whatever. All those are bad, sad, bad feelings. Good feelings. So you're hitting on something really, I think, very, very valuable. That we're coming from now that's coming up is a generation of people who are like positivity, manifest. And like, that's wonderful, but you have to be able to deal with the dark. And because it's not dark, it's communicating something to you. It's a direction, but getting more comfortable in those waters, I think, it'll help you move differently.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what we're talking about with the parents, about being able to be more reflective of themselves and their states of being, because that's what gets communicated with the child, and that's what helps build their world, their internal world.
And I guess the last thing I'll inject to make this really clear, because it's such an important point to make, what you're saying is, hey guys, you're listening, the negative is actually positive. All of this is positive. Negative doesn't mean bad at all. Negative is a charge, just like positive is a charge.
Yeah.
It's just understanding how do we use it to your benefit. That's all.
Right. And I'm going to take that. So that's like we're having a catch, right?
Yeah.
That's beautiful. So I know we're talking about, and I still think we're on track with, what's getting passed down. You could say it with transgenerationally trauma, what have you, or just transgenerational communication. Now what? Now what do you do when you have this bad that it's like the hot stove? No one wants to look at it. But here we are, like slowing it down, because we slow it down so it can be warm. It doesn't have to be hot. We don't have to move away from it. And then you can recognize, why is this hot? Is this because of a feeling that's inside of me? Is this because somebody is doing something to me on the outside that doesn't feel good? I've got to think about this. And then I'm telling you, with that kind of thought, your world opens up. You walk around much more safe, because you know what's inside of you. And everybody has little hot spots or something, that. And so the next time you're in a situation where that gets flagged, you can, again, move differently. Like, wait, I'm doing that thing again. This is where I need to just chill and be quiet for a moment, and then wait till I come back together. And then, be a little bit more curious about maybe what the other person is saying, or this person just really annoys me, and maybe I should rethink this relationship.
More direct. I do have a question, because
two separate things.
You're doing a great job in keeping the topic in alignment, so I don't want to take us off, but I do have a question for you, and it's more, I want to voice it because it's personal, and I just wanted to bring this forward. So again, about parents learning, observing, and being self-aware. So my daughter had come in and she voiced her opinion, and she expressed something to me that she didn't like about something that I had done. Now, in that moment, and I'm just sharing this, guys, it's so helpful what Lisa's saying. When you're self-aware, you can look at that child and appreciate the fact that they're communicating. Have appreciation in that. And not sit up there and just justify what it is that you've done.
Yeah.
Let it be, which is what I did. And over a few days, then I sat with her after she was calm, after she wasn't upset, and we had such a beautiful conversation about it.
Yeah, no, that's the stuff right there. So there was some kind of rupture that was made, and she gave voice to it. Maybe she had a little too much heat on it, but it was like, whew. But you had enough sense to know, like, I'm not going to dominate her and shut her down and make her. You want that voice. So going back again is a perfect example of how you both now can talk about it, because you've also taught or teaching her in that process of going to the repair. You're also talking to her and saying, this can be talked about. Understandably, you're really upset. Calm, and it can be talked about, not just like yelled at, but talked.
Yes.
So you doing something and just kind of and just holding her in that moment. You didn't shut her down. You didn't shut her down by getting too bigger than her, and you didn't shut her down by getting small and like, oh, why are you getting upset? You just stayed nice and sturdy and let her do, and then you went back. Like that's some really good holding, but very difficult to do.
And I think that's part of the parental legacy, where you can recognize how things happen in the past, maybe with our own parents, and really being so self-aware that we can change that.
Absolutely.
We have the ability to.
Absolutely. And I think you're saying something important in that part of, we're trying to do better than our parents, and they're still part of us. So when that comes up, so maybe one time you do get a little short with her or something, and you're like, oof, I didn't like that look. That doesn't feel good. No shame. Like we've got to take the shame out of parenting. There isn't, and this isn't perfect, and also, you got to take the shame out of your own ideal or standards that you have for yourself. You're human. All that's showing is that you've got a muscle. It's like it's showing that you have a little work there, and then you go, oh, I totally get where that's all coming from, and I'm not going to let it go. I'm going to turn around and address it, and that's how the change is made.
So good, being kind to ourselves.
Oh, so necessary. We can't go anywhere if we're locked in with shame and guilt. It's just that's actually, when you have a lot of shame and guilt, that's what keeps you rigid. That's what keeps you repeating it, because you're like, that's bad. So, and then you block it out. I'm not going to be bad. No, let's get closer to whatever bad is so we can figure this out. And and almost like you integrate it. It's not bad. It's human. Just like the good. Sorry, we can't hold too tight to that either. It's like, have you ever, I've definitely had friends who have tried to do this, and, like they have a really great night out or a dinner that they're, a game night even. And then they want to repeat it and have like the same people, and we're going to do it again. And it's not the same.
Right.
Because we're all in different mood. It has to be okay. When you're trying to hold on to something so tight, and you don't have that flexibility, it gets squashed. It gets squashed. It would be a very rigid party. Like, we're all supposed to do the same things. It's a lot of pressure.
So good. So good. Well, I think the conversation that we just had really answered the one question I had next. I was going to ask, what role does self-awareness play in recognizing the influence of our parental legacy? And actually, I think while we did touch on that, the second part is applicable to the conversation. How can people become more self-aware? Like, how do you build that self-awareness?
Yeah, well, I definitely think the kind of therapy and the work I do, therapy, I think is awesome because it slows you down. So if you think, I like to look at it like a gym. It's your emotional gym. It it's like you go to the gym to stay fit. Hope some of us we try, and it's a similar thing. It just slows you down because we move so fast in the world. And especially if feelings that aren't so great, we don't want to sit there and think about them. But so if we can, I think what you're talking about, like the bad is actually positive, we can look at that more. We want to, because there's information there.
Correct.
And we don't want to just cancel everybody, or ourselves. That's the same thing that happens. If inside your bad isn't positive, then you're going to try to cut it off, and that doesn't help you, doesn't help anyone else.
So do you feel that, is this what you're saying? As you embrace negativity, and again, negativity doesn't mean bad. That's negativity often is just a mirror of what we can use to see what we're looking to blossom from ourselves from within. So if we look at it in that light, that could be our mechanism to become self-aware.
Yes.
If we tap into it.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's beautifully said. Yeah. That it really is like, I look at the compass. You were saying it's a mirror of what to kind of bring about what you want. Mm-hmm. It's so true. One of the studies they did when I recall early on in my training that I thought was like so interesting. They were talking about attunement with the baby, and mom and the baby, they were on the floor, baby's crawling, the age. And mom, I'm doing this because mom has her hand on the baby's back, and she's in rhythm. Everybody's like trucking. And then she goes off rhythm. So she's not attuned to the baby. She does something different. Wow. And then the baby goes, "What's up?" So if you think about that, our natural state is, or our not natural, our wished for, desired state is, we're in attunement, world's working with me, I'm in alignment, something's off. Hey, we want to look at that. We want to then go, mom, get on rhythm. Let's do this, Right. So that's what we want to build that same muscle for ourselves. That we want to be aware of the negative or the what doesn't feel good or the discomfort, so we can better take care of ourselves. And then that's where once you can do that, you can really see inside of me what's going on with the other. You can figure out what may be lacking that you need for yourself.
Very true.
Instead of moving around people because you're scared or you're turned off by, because you don't know. It's just the feeling inside of you. Yes. You don't know if that person across from you has the ability to listen to you and go, "Oh, I had no idea that was affecting you that way. Thanks for letting me know." And then they both have something,
So good. So good. I had 2 more questions for you. Okay. So this one is, in your view, what are some key takeaways and actionable insights for the listeners who want to navigate their parental legacy and embrace the change in a healthy way? So what are some actionable?
Yeah. So I think really that kind of self-assessment, the self-attunement, where we're talking about being able to reflect. Mm-hmm. I think actionable, slow down these moments.
So good.
Slow them down. At the end of the day, maybe you can't do it. Maybe it's going to be the next morning when you're driving. Who knows? Like what? But give yourself some time just to think about yourself and how you've been feeling. What's going on. Like I hear a lot of times, parents will say to themselves, like, I give great advice to other people, but I'm noticing I'm not able to do the same. Like, why is that happening? That why is a great question. Don't stop there. Keep going. Keep thinking about it. Don't drop it like a hot potato. Like we want to slow down and think. And then also, I think very actionable be curious. Be really curious about yourself and be really curious about your child, because they're not in a place where they're going to say, that really ticked me off. That's their environment. How mom and dad treat them, like that's just how they think the whole world is going to do it. So that, yeah. So it's also really important to, if you did step out, or something, be curious about your child. Play rose and thorn with them, and be able to say, that be able to create a dialogue in the family where we can talk about things that didn't go well, things that were frustrating, and again, it's not like I'm thinking about parents being, doing something wrong. It could be kids needing to develop more resiliency, tolerance. There's an age and stage. I mean, hey, I don't like hearing no today, but I guarantee when I was probably like 3, and then probably again in my teens, I probably had a little bit more difficulty with no, right? There are these certain stages where we're learning to assert ourselves. And, sometimes parents can feel like they're getting dominated by their own children, when the reality of it is you just got a strong-minded child and they're just asserting themselves, and you got to help them grieve. You got to help them grieve, no, not getting what you want. So if you have a child that says, yeah, when you told me I wasn't allowed to, be on my phone after a certain hour, that was the worst part of my day, or that really upset me. All you have to say is, yeah, that would be upsetting to, get blocked there. You don't have to make it better. It's just, yeah, I totally get
Good
that.
point. You're not there to try to. I like that.
But to understand, of course, that would be upsetting.
Yes. You
got something. You had to stop. Yeah.
Because sometimes I think that old school mentality is like, yeah, okay, well, next time think about. And it's just no empathy there, no understanding. And I think sometimes that might come from our belief of what we think a parent might be, the role of a parent, as authoritative as though we know. But it's important to understand and actually see them, as their own individual, that maybe we're the guide and they're the teachers.
Very, very, very much. That's huge. I think that is something beautiful. That could be another episode in itself. But yeah, your child is going to reflect things to you. They're going to reflect missing pieces. And it's, for you to be able to have that second chance yourself to look at it and then consider what you might be lacking or what you need. Absolutely. And I do want to stress too, it is a extremely difficult role being a parent and having to hold all of these things, how to protect your child, give them boundaries, and then also be the one they fight against. Like, it's helpful, but they're not going to like it. And you also have to be able to empathize and go, I understand that, without changing it.
Yes.
Without changing it, and recognizing that this is helping them learn how to deal with the discomfort and the bad or negative feelings. It happens right here, where you it is bad. It is rough. You're feeling really big feelings. Hopefully you can help them get it to be a little smaller so it doesn't take over them, if they get so upset. But to be able to hold that and empathize.
Yes. So good, because as you hold your light, they can see theirs as well. Serves two purposes. Lisa, thank you so much for being on. Last question, as I promised. What do you do to relax?
Oh gosh, I'm in influx right now where I got all my gears turning, but I do make sure I have certain times of the day or the week that are just mine. Everything, all electronics are off, and
nice.
I can just be. Yeah,
it's important.
Yeah.
Even for an hour or a couple minutes. That's even a challenge. 10 minutes. I've got my phone.
Yeah.
Good.
Turn it off. Yeah, because and sometimes too, that's, you know, when I hear people talk about guilty pleasure shows, like, it's, you know, they're kind of dumb. Fantastic. Why do you need your mind to be working all the time? You know, turn it off. Turn it off. Because that's also where more creativity and generativity comes
Yes.
from.
Yes. Yes. So,
So
guys, I think that's
again,
something that we can take away as well. Set the electronics aside just for a moment. Lisa, thanks so much for being on. More to come, I'm sure.
I love it. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. It was fun.
All right, guys. And until next time, everyone, stay blessed. Thanks so much for watching and for supporting the channel. InnerCosmetics is hosted by Elle. High and Low is available for download at innercosmetics.co. Thank you for supporting an independent artist.